Hi there. Here are my 7 reasons why I am planning to vote yes for the Voice to Parliament. I need to say from the outset, I totally respect people who are voting no. Many of them are coming from a good place that they're worried about our society, and to some extent, they think, well, it ain't broke, don't fix it. But here's the thing, it is broke. I can tell you as a public health professor that we have a big problem. We're stuck in a rut. We've been failing in Aboriginal health. Chronic disease is through the roof. Psychological problems, depression, anxiety, trauma, through the roof. And poor child health. Lots of health problems, ear problems, eye problems, education issues. So much to be done. So that's my first reason. We need to get out of a rut. And as Einstein said, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. So we're not winning. Secondly, the voice will lead to hands-on changes. There's nothing magic that's going to fix Aboriginal health, but the evidence shows that if you speak to people about the policies that are going to affect them, you end up with much better policies. And one of the great things about The Voice is it will be a sort of a hotline where Aboriginal people can inform policymakers and politicians what needs to be done. So that's my second reason. Number 3, it's a pretty low risk approach. I mean, if you speak to any of the senior lawyers, they're not worried. This is an advisory change. So the way I think of it, Parliament is still driving the car. And the Voice to Parliament will be like an Aboriginal guy in the back going, hey, listen, mate, I've lived here for 60,000 years. Don't go down that line because there's flooding there at this time of the year. You need to go over the mountain and round that way. So to my mind, it's advisory. Now, the driver, Parliament, can ignore the advice if they want, but it's a pretty low risk thing. There's much riskier things that we've done throughout history. And so I think that's worth keeping in mind. Number 4, it's now or never. So there's a bit of talk about, maybe it should be delayed or maybe we could get a better deal. But the problem is that kicking the can down the road is like kicking the can off a cliff. I barrack for a football team that just hardly ever gets into a final, St Kilda. And when they do get into the final, you do want them to win that match. And, if we don't get this over the line, it's very unclear if or when there'll be another referenda, and it could well be decades away. The next reason is that we will have a sweeter future if we stop sugarcoating history. We know in this continent, got colonised, people got murdered, brought disease, lots of people got kicked out of their lands. Doesn't mean current Australians need to walk around in shame or apologising the whole time. But we do need to have the maturity to not bullshit ourselves, to be honest with ourselves and future generations. And in that way, as with any relationship, that you can then move on in a mature way, recognising the past problems, but moving into a better future. This voice, in my view, is an act of love. So you've got more than 80% of Aboriginal people have got together and agreed about this. Some people go, why not everyone? Well, try and get 80% of any group of Australians to agree about anything. And imagine you're having an argument with a friend and they come to you genuinely and they look you in the eye and they put their hand out and they say, we're opening our heart, let's sort this out. That's what we've got here. And are we really going to just slap their hand and walk away? Or are we going to embrace and move on? So I think that this is an act of love. It's about our identity as Australians, of our children, of the future, and also what overseas people think about Australians. So it's really important in my mind. My final point is it's the vibe. And many of you will have seen the movie The Castle, where famously the comedian says to the judge about his arguments, it's the vibe. But the funny thing is all we're being asked in this question is about the vibe. Many people have got caught up with, I don't know all the detail. Well, when you book an aeroplane trip, you tell them where you want to go, but you don't sit in the cockpit saying, oh, I think you better drop to 20,000 feet, 25,000 feet, go southeast. We need to decide where we want to go. Do we, in principle, agree with this recognition? And then leave all the clever politicians and constitutional lawyers to make it work. But it is a conscience vote. So by that I mean it's too big for a political party to be telling people what they should vote for. It's a bit more like, do you believe in slavery, or what did you think about same-sex marriage? It's a personal choice. And I think that we should really need to reflect on our own personal values, whether they're religious or whether you're a secular humanist. It runs deep. It's about our sense of compassion. And at the end of the day after the vote, there's two options. Are we going to be looking up at a big blue open sky and say, right, new future, very exciting time? Or are we going to be a bunch of ostriches with our heads in the ground, bums up in the air, pretending that history never happened, pretending that everything's okay when it's not? So they're my 7 reasons why I will definitely be voting yes.